Hello and welcome to the Hylton Forrester show. In this episode, I've got a really special guest with me, a lady called Shereen Sinclair. Welcome to the podcast, Shereen.
Oh, welcome. Thank you, Hylton. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Great, okay. Before we get into the heart of the podcast, could you tell the guests a bit about you and your beginning, how you started out? And your background is you're called a plumbing angel. You started out as that. And generally, what inspired you? And a bit about your background, please, Shereen.
Okay, so I run a company called Trades Angel now, which started off as Plumber's Angel. I'm a business coach for, well, now plumbers and other tradespeople as well. My background is in commercial banking and property, and I became a coach in 2009, and I've now branched out into actually just helping more people from that respect.
Awesome, awesome. And what inspired you to work towards tradespeople? I know for myself, I'm a tradesperson. I doing building work, but from your background in banking, what inspired you to go in that direction?
Well, actually, what most people may not recognise is my father's an electrician, so I've come from the trades. My ex-partner was a plumber, so lived with the trades for many years, and the background in property had me working with trades. But it was actually a previous coach who said to me, Shereen, you need to niche, because I had a business before that was serving all small businesses. So coaching all small businesses said to me, you need to niche, and he had a formula for actually putting together niches, and one of the ones that ranked quite highly in there were actually gas engineers. So although it was called Plumber's Angel, I worked primarily with gas engineers over wet plumbers.
Okay, awesome, awesome. The trade industry is generally it can be challenging at times. I know for me being a builder. What is your experience working with the tradespeople, and how do you find that area? So,
I call them our fourth emergency service because most of us don't realise that we need tradespeople. So the houses that we live in, the offices that we work in, the places that we spend our leisure time, they're all built by tradespeople and maintained by tradespeople. So they are our fourth emergency service. As I go back to kind of growing up in the trades, it really is the norm for me. So I'm okay with it. So I'm not that put off by it where some other people might be. And also I think I've come up through different industries that have also given me a different viewpoint on the trades as well. And what I found is that they're lovely people at heart, completely loyal. I run a trades industry luncheon, which is part of a quarterly series. And at the last one in October, we were actually talking about that. As a kind of industry, you find some really loyal, genuine people, and they are actually some of the nicest people to work with. Once you've crossed the hurdle of getting them to trust you and they know what you're delivering, they're some of the nicest people to actually work with.
oh, that's wonderful. That's great. And you created the trades framework. Can you break down a bit about that and how you actually help business owners take control of their businesses?
Yeah, so in terms of that, I put together a framework because there needs to be a process that people are taken through in order to move their business from where they are now to where they want to be, because that's effectively why people come to a coach. It's because you want something different. And ultimately, I set goals with clients. Yeah. I'll have a look at what it is they want to do in the business, but more importantly, we blend in their family life to that as well, because most tradespeople know what they're doing technical wise, but from a business perspective, that's a bit that they don't get taught at all, and that's where they need support. So that's where the framework has come about in terms of pulling all those things together to help them really work through that. So I've taken the acronym from TRADES. So the T stands for time and tasks. That's looking at things like diary management, really looking at how they manage their time in the most effective way. revenue and profit, looking at the numbers. So sometimes trades business owners do not want to look at the numbers. They leave all of that to the accountant. But if you're just relying on the accountant, you're not looking at what's going on more frequently, then you're really missing a trick, because the accountant is looking backwards over what's happened. But we also need to look at what's happened currently as well. So if you're just relying on the figures for your tax returns, that's too late. We need to keep a handle on it. And you also need to know what the margins are on particular jobs, so that you know what are the most profitable jobs for you to do, so which ones you should keep on doing and which ones that you should drop. Admin and systems, so that is looking around the back end of the business. With the upcoming AI and technology that we have at our fingertips now, that's really great for people, so we can automate and shortcut a lot of time on those things. Delivery and team, that's really looking at the delivery of the services that you offer and the leadership of the actual team that you have. If you're a solo person, it's very difficult to really build a business out of that. Once you have people who are working with you, you shift from just being a business owner to being a leader as well. And that incorporates a slightly different type of skill set that needs to come through. The E is energy and mindset. As we know, nothing happens until we shift that mindset. So if you don't believe that you're capable of running a trades business, then you'll always be a one-man band. And that's not what most people actually want. And the S, which is the one that most people start off with, is sales and growth. But if you don't have the structure in place in the foundation, the sales and growth are just going to fall by the wayside, because those leads will be coming in, but you won't know how to service them. So that's the framework in its entirety. And one of the things that I do, although I'm coaching the individual business owner, I also get their families involved as well. So if they do have a partner, I'll speak to their partner. I want to find out about the children. I want to know when their wedding anniversaries are, when the important dates are, so that we can plan that into their business and into their diary as well.
Wow, that's incredible. It's getting the partners involved. It's fantastic. I think with the trades, what you actually mentioned, the TRADES, what stands out for me is the numbers. I think it's really important to actually do work you're making money from, rather than just being busy. And that really does make a difference in the trades industry. So what is your experience with that? I guess you've coached quite a lot of people over the past years you've been doing it. What patterns do you see with that, Shereen?
There's a term in the trades called busy fool. And it's that one where people are spinning their wheels. They're really busy, but they don't see the money that they're making. The way that I initially speak to people is through free consultations. And most of those free consultations, a lot of people will come in and say, Shereen, I'm working really hard, but I don't feel like I'm making any money. And that's oftentimes because there's a gap between what they're doing and what they're being paid. And that can come up in many different forms. It could be a productivity issue, because it means that they're traveling from one side of a city to another side of a city, not realizing that they're burning travel time. It can mean that they're not pricing correctly. That's another big one. They're doing jobs that don't have a good margin on it, but they're doing lots of those small margin jobs rather than focusing on the ones that bring in the bigger margin. There are lots of different ways that it kind of makes itself up, but that is normally the number one complaint. And I think we know tradespeople as being one of the hardest working sectors that there are out there, but they don't often bring home the money that they should do. And with a small few tweaks, we can kind of make that happen fairly quickly, because most of it is to do with inefficiencies in the business.
Brilliant point, that. And I think what I've noticed as well, what a lot of tradespeople do, they're busy, and then they have a gap in between the busyness where they're trying to find another work itself. So they may be looking for the next project for a week, and that money, what they've earned, good money, it lasts us over, so they don't really make a lot of money over the long term because of the gaps in between each project. How do you find that work itself?
That's about having a steady flow of leads coming in. And one of the things that I'd like to do is get the clients that I work with to find a niche. Because when you find a niche, you become the specialist in that area, and then you get to charge a premium off the back of it as well. So really looking at those two things together brings in a consistent flow of income rather than relying on the phone to ring, which is what a lot of tradespeople do. They work more on a reactive basis waiting for the phone to ring, but many of them don't know how to make that phone ring, and that's what we do, because when you do that you could sleep better at night. You know your bills are going to get paid because you have some kind of capacity to know roughly what's coming in, but also you're in a position of power because you know that you can ultimately command how much you're actually going to make rather than hoping and praying someone's going to call you for a job.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does, because I know a few people in my circle, and you call them sometimes and they don't answer their phone. And then when they call you and they're asking for work, that kind of thing. So it's good to have that framework of consistency. I guess that's what you're saying. Is that the case?
Yes, and please always answer the phone. It's one of my bugbears when people are like, oh, I'm busy, and then wonder why they haven't got any work. 2-3 weeks or even months down the line. If you present yourself as being busy all the time and not having extra capacity, people are going to give that work to somebody else. So you've got to learn how to schedule in that work, how to really talk to people so that they understand you can't do the work maybe right now, but this is the next available time that you've got, and part of the systems that we put in place to kind of make that happen, because so many businesses that are doing really, really well go in the opposite direction just through simple lack of communication and lack of response to the people who actually want to work with them. I had that happen to a client a couple of months ago, somebody that he does kind of commercial contracts, and somebody who works with him quite frequently, but because he wasn't answering his phone personally for some other things, they just assumed that he was too busy, and they gave a contract for about £200,000 to somebody else. So he now understands, please answer the phone, please return people's calls, because you don't know what you're turning down, what business you're turning down in the interim. It's
very difficult at times to, when you're on the tools and then you in the office, that difference between, it's more like your background in coaching, and that I've had coaching as well, where you're going the left hand side of the brain and the right hand side of the brain, that kind of thing. When it comes to the person though behind the business, what is the distinction which is so crucial in coaching them personally? What do you find with that?
I think going back to the previous question, the first thing that people have to bring in is a team. Okay. And bringing it forward to this question that you've just said, they have to be able to relinquish some of the control, and they need to be able to trust. So I find with a lot of tradespeople, they think they're the only person who can do it, but there are people who can do different parts of the business better than the individual can. And a lot of the times, if you want to get off the tools, you're going to have to bring in people to do the work. So be that subbies, be that office staff, be that project managers that you're working with. You need to bring in other people to be able to support you. That it really is a business. If it's just you by yourself, then that makes it a little bit more difficult to do that. In terms of the mindset of the people that I coach who kind of do quite well, by the time they've come to me, they know that they're not where they, not where they need to be. And they want to do something about it. Oftentimes people are content in the cycle of complaining about what's going on, but they're not prepared to do something to make it happen. And I always say to people, when you get to that point, it's going to cost you two forms of investment. It's going to cost you investment in money. Losing my voice. It's going to cost you an investment in money or an investment in time, but more often both. So you're going to have to invest some money that you probably weren't looking to invest, and you're going to have to invest some time in order to make that happen as well.
Great. That's a great point. It's a complete mixture. And so when you mentioned earlier about bringing in their partners and their family, what does that look like in terms of, like, do you just ask them to connect with the partners and that? What does that look like?
So when they do their onboarding, I take them through a process called a customised wheel of life and a customised wheel of business. So they come on and they will grade themselves on 8 different areas in their personal life and 8 different areas in their business life as well. So part of that, the family kind of things are coming up. So I do say to them, I just want to have a chat. with your partner. And I think being a woman, primarily most of the people that I work with are men, so the people that I'm speaking to primarily are women as their partners, and I just want to get the flip side of what's happening and seeing what they need from their other half to kind of make things work. That's oftentimes what that looks like, is being able to go away on holiday without the phone constantly ringing.
Yeah.
Or it can mean working from home sometimes so that they can balance the childcare a little bit. For one client, it was making sure that he could actually attend his son's Thursday evening athletics program that started at 6 o'clock, and sometimes he didn't always finish work on time. So it looks like different things for different people, because really I always say to them, there is no point in building the business if you lose your family in the process. We've got to keep both sides of that equation running together, which is why we look at the life side of things and the business side of things as well, because before the person is a business owner, they're an individual.
Yes. Yeah. That's
and if they don't have a family yet, one of the things that we look to do is create some time so that they can go and find somebody as well. So sometimes I have single clients who come to me, and that's not so much of an issue because they don't have a family, but it's more about creating the time so that they do have the spare time to actually go out and meet someone, as opposed to working all hours of the day, if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. It leads to my next question. The construction industry has one of the highest rates of stress and suicide rates. What changes do you think needs to happen nationwide to help that situation?
This is a big topic, and it's something that when I really got a grasp of, I couldn't just let it sit by the wayside. So I incorporate that in the way that I coach. But I've also done something about it from my point of view as well, because when you look at the stats, two tradespeople die by suicide every day on average. They're the highest sector in the UK to suffer with mental health problems as well. And when we look at the underlying reasons as to why is that, the studies that have been done through people like Mates in Mind, Ironmongery Direct and Mind as well, those charities, the results that come back off the back of it are, a lot of it is to do with their business, or a lot of it is to do with their working life.
Yeah.
So if we can sort out the business side of things, then it shouldn't bleed into their personal life, which shouldn't then bleed into mental health issues. So for me, it looked like a no-brainer, but particularly with the micro SMEs, it's different for people that are on site because it's a slightly different dynamic with that. But if we can stop the business problems from forming in the first place, or at least alleviating them with things like coaching, then they won't have so much of those personal problems that then kind of factor in elsewhere, because the business problems don't stop in the business. You bring them home with you, and everyone then pays the price of that. I also started a Luncheon, which started in June this year, so June 2025. And the reason behind that was that I could see people doing lots of different initiatives, but I didn't see enough collaboration. So I thought, if I can get some change makers together in the industry, so across the mental health sector, construction executives and people who are just trying to do their bit in the industry, if we get together, we're having conversations about taking action and collaborating, then what that's going to do is increase the impact of who we are and the results that we're actually getting. So we had our second one in October, so that was a few weeks ago now, and those are run quarterly, and I invite people who are doing things in the region and in the sector to come together and collaborate so that we can make, those projects bigger. And the collaborations that have already started, they've started doing, some really good work together. I'm getting involved in one now that will kick off probably next year. And if we're all doing our bit to make that happen, it should alleviate some of those problems. But I think we're talking about a wider issue as well. Construction seems to have more of it, I think primarily because it's a male-dominated industry. And when we look at the stats across the board in the UK, men are most likely to die by suicide. So I think that's the starting point, and we have to look at that as a wider issue, as well as the fact that it's happening more in construction. But I think one of the things as well is more women being in the sector as well helps to level that out a little bit. Sometimes it can be driven on a lot of ego, as women, we come in with a slightly different energy to taper that off. What I found with clients and even people that I've done free consultations with is that once they find a safe space, a non-judgmental space as well, what they'll actually do is they'll open up, and a lot of those problems are alleviated just by them talking and them releasing and not being judged for it. So because I'm not their wife, I'm not their partner, I'm their coach, it's a professional relationship that we have. They know when they come and talk to me, it's coming from a space of, okay, you can release what it is that's going on. Now we can look at how do we put that together without any judgment off the back of it. And if there are more of those non-judgmental spaces, I think they would have more room to grow.
That's a massive answer, Harry. And it's generally a cultural thing, isn't it? The way how we live. I'm so pleased nowadays that there is a lot more construction workers at the gym, working out in the morning before they go to work. That's what I've noticed as well. Lifestyle, consumption, a lot of construction workers either drink or smoke, and that is something that needs to change as well. But it is
and I guess they're doing it. They tend to do those things as the release.
Yes.
We have to change the habit of release from smoking, drinking, taking drugs, everything else, and shift it into something slightly different. And like you said, things like going to the gym are quite important. That's a different way of showing, of getting that stress out. Meditation is one. I have my clients meditating, just giving them self space.
Wow.
Not picking up your phone and going straight onto social media or your emails first thing in the morning, just giving yourself that kind of space before the day starts commanding of you. Though even those simple things make a massive difference to people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because I remember when I was a young builder, the first thing I used to do, get out of bed, get out a quick wash, and straight away out into the traffic, trying to get across London or get to the site before the traffic goes. And you don't have time for yourself to think, to strategize, to plan. Am I doing this correctly? Should I be doing that correctly? It's such a challenge at times. It's about stopping, thinking through the processes, and then taking action. What would you say with that makes a difference?
Makes a huge difference. We're in London. It's the beginning of winter, and it's a beautiful sunny day outside. Even taking a walk in the middle of the day. I had this conversation with one of my clients a couple of weeks ago. They've got an office in central London, and what they found is that the team are, because they've got an office team and then engineers out on site, the office team weren't going out for lunch, so they would go buy their lunch and come back and sit at their desk. And he was like, well, I want them to go out and enjoy their lunch. And I'm like, well, are you going out and you enjoying your lunch? And he went, no. And I goes, well, that's why they're sitting there with you and you're all doing the same thing. So we've now incorporated things like them having a team lunch once a week. But also, if they are going to stay in the office, they're not allowed to talk about work. They can talk to each other, just talk about social things, or be encouraged to go outside and actually just get out the office. And they work in a really cool part of London. I'm just like, go outside and have a walk. Yes. Just get out, because in that space you actually come up with more solutions than you would sitting at your desk. And I'm guilty of that myself, so I have to schedule in things like going for a walk in the middle of the day, because otherwise I can just be stuck at the desk going and going and going. But actually I find a lot of solutions when I'm out just walking, in the gardens and looking at the trees and stuff, no headphones, no nothing, and all of a sudden a problem that I've been working on or that I've been thinking about for a long time, the answer just pops into your head.
Yes, yeah. And that could change your life completely. Just like taking action with that. You can't really do it through the stress of what's going on around you. It's similar to the you mentioned also that you describe tradespeople as the fourth emergency service. Can you expand on that? What do you mean by that?
So we're used to our fire service, our police service and our medical service. Do you remember during COVID we all clapped for the medical profession?
Yes.
What people don't realise is tradespeople were also working through that time as well, when many of us were locked up at homes. And they touch all different parts of our life. And like I said before, the houses that we live in, the offices that we work in, the places that we socialise, the places that we go to for medical treatment, all of those have come from tradespeople either building them or maintaining them.
Yeah.
And without them, you know, our lives would be very different. And I think to tag on to the back of that as well, we're expecting a shortage of 250,000 tradespeople by 2020. So that's less than 5 years away now. And that big number is dropping off for various different reasons. Some of it because people are leaving the industry. Some of it because the older skilled workers are actually now retiring as well. So we've got that mix coming up. That affects all of us. If we need tradespeople, there'll be less of them to go around. It also affects the economy as well through the loss of income. So we all end up paying for that in one way or another, however the government decides to do that. But also it's the houses, that the house targets that they keep on going on about that they want built. Who are going to be building them? Yeah. So we really need to support the industry and encourage people into it, make it a great place for people to be in and want to come into, because there's a huge amount from a financial point of view that can be made from trades businesses if they're run correctly, and it can be a desirable industry to go into. Especially a lot of jobs are under threat by AI. Trades at the moment, cross fingers, is one of those ones that's pretty much untouched at the moment, so it's pretty safe.
That's a great point. What you mentioned your trades industry leaders luncheon. Can you expand on that, and who are the kind of people you want to see in the room at that luncheon?
So when I started the luncheon, all I wanted were people who I knew were doing things in the industry and trying to make a change. So literally it was for change makers. I'm quite honoured to have Deborah Madden, who is one of the executive directors over at the Construction Industry Training Board, who did a keynote speech for us. And she came at it from a very interesting perspective, because as well as being in the industry and having worked in the industry for many decades, her son-in-law also died by suicide earlier on this year. So she had the personal perspective as well as the commercial aspect of things as well. We've had industry charities in the room, had health and safety specialists in the room, other charities who work, had a band of builders who work to help tradespeople who've been injured, so they get volunteers to come in and do work in people's house, but they get involved in massive awareness training as well, and they have their own mental health support that they can provide primarily to tradespeople too. So really it's for people in the industry primarily. We also had people from some of the construction companies as well, so we had a tier 1 company come in last time, and then people like Howden's were at one of the previous events as well. Really, we're looking at companies who are benefiting from tradespeople. So suppliers are ones that I want to get to the table as well. So although they don't have tradespeople on their books, you know, their work is primarily based on tradespeople buying their products. Manufacturers as well would be great to get in the room, trades manufacturers too, but primarily people who want to make a change in the industry and not just come and talk about it, because what we do is it is a working lunch. So we work on different things, make those connections so that the collaborations can happen going forward, and then we all take an action to do something over the next 90 days. So that could be a small thing, that could be a big thing, but we all do that, and then we come back in 90 days and report on what's happened, and then we use that community to kind of keep the ball rolling and then make more connections with each other.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and thanks for that, because that just, after 90 days you can see the change, you can see something happening if you take action on it. And
some of the actions are small.
The
last time we had somebody who does suicide prevention training, and her action was to share the details of the training so that we could actually do the training. And then once we've done the training, we know what it's like. We can then promote the training on a much bigger scale. So it's just getting the word out there. So it's getting people to do something as opposed to just come and talk about it.
Yeah. And I know you do a lot on things like LinkedIn and social media. I've learned a lot from some of your posts, and How are you finding the difference between that and the AI systems and things like that, which are coming in as well? Have you benefited from that, Shereen?
Yeah, I think we have to use technology to our advantage. I'm not of the age where I grew up with the internet. That came in like in my early 20s. So I'm not a child that had a phone to start off with. So it's something that I'm kind of having to educate myself on continuously and learn about and bring people in who are smarter than me. This is not my zone of genius. So I have people that I work with to guide me on the best things to use and the best ways to use them.
Yeah.
And then I'll play around with certain things as well. So we definitely use them in the business. We now use some of the sessions, we use those as actually posts, because really what I'm talking about with my clients, other people need to hear the same thing. So we keep the confidentiality of the clients, but in the past we have used actual live clips from coaching sessions, because I feel that people can benefit from that. And social media is one of those things that I could do without, if I'm really honest. I just want to get on with my work and just do it. I don't want to have to talk about what I'm doing. But in this day and age, if you're not talking about what you're doing, then nobody knows what you're doing. And I did a post recently about being a finalist for 2 different awards. I sat on that for 3 weeks. I'm just like, okay.
Gosh,
if I don't have people in my world going, people need to know about this, I'll be like, oh, okay, I did it. And then, it's something that I have to work on in the same way my clients have things in their business that they need to work on. The biggest thing that I need to work on is asking for those reviews, asking for those testimonials, celebrating publicly when something happens, rather than just saying, oh, I did it, and move on to the next thing. So I have to continually check my own mindset around that. So yeah, that's the work that I have to do.
That's wonderful. Lead by example. Yeah? Celebrate yourself.
Even the coach needs coaches to help.
Absolutely, yes. And to touch on that, what you've actually, even the coach needed, we've both been in coaching rooms together, and it's been a wonderful journey in terms of the growth. And do you think that is important to have a coach?
I think it's super important. And whether or not it's called a coach or a mentor or a support, I think it's super important, because I've just admitted something there that I need continual support on. And we don't know what we don't know. And we also individually don't really have the capacity to get out of our own way. You asked me a question earlier on about, what's the mindset of the people that I work with? And often the biggest blocker is them, in the same way that my biggest blocker is me.
Yes.
In order to navigate that a lot, we've got to find people that we can trust to help us through that process. It's not always a case of knowing more, but it's like, why are we not doing the thing that we know we need to do in order to move ourselves to where we need to move to?
Yeah.
And like you said, we've both been part of the same coaching program previously, and that was a wonderful experience in terms of what that looked like for us at that time, and the community that were there, that were growing with us. And I think that's an incredibly important thing that we all need if we want to keep on moving forward.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. And before I ask my last question, what's the one thing or story? I know you've had a lot of people going through your programs. The difference between, you may have met somebody who they had challenges, and you've got them to think about their process, and then they've taken action. Could you explain a couple of stories behind that? What's happened?
Oh, I think one of the, not a business story as such, but a personal one, which I think will relate to a lot of people. One of my clients, when he came to me, him and his wife wanted to start a family, but he wasn't home often enough to be able to start that family. So part of the work that we had to do was strip out some of the excessive hours that he was working and pass more over to his team. I'm glad to say now they have had their child. The child's now about 6 months old, and he now works from home a couple of days a week. Now that's a massive transformation personally from where he was, and the business has also improved in that same time frame. So he's brought on more people into the business and more money is being made. It doesn't have to be an either or situation. You kind of can have both. And I think that kind of exemplifies my coaching quite well, because yes, we're working on the business, but we're also working on the people behind the business as well.
Yes.
If we're looking purely from a business perspective, then we've got things like a client who has been working with me for 6 months now, and they've generated more in the last 6 months than they have in the previous year, and they're now on track to make about 1.5 million for this full year.
Yes.
And their team has grown just under double in size as well, and more importantly, they've maintained their profit margins in the process, and they still get to go on holiday, and they still get to come home and spend time with their wife, because I make sure that's kind of included. And like I said, I speak to the other half to find out whether or not it's kind of happening, or whether or not we need to work things over again. But I've got clients who scaled their business from 2 to 16 people and now are completely off the tools and don't even live in the country anymore. The business basically runs without them. But it depends on what the person wants. Not everybody wants that. And I think the beauty of the way that I work is you decide what it is that you want, and then I help you to get there. It's not my job to tell everyone to build a massive business, because not everybody wants to do that.
Yes.
You know, but what we want to do is make whatever is there run as efficiently as possible, and work for them and their families, not the other way around.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. And then my last question then, Shereen, is what kind of impact would you want to see after, for instance, you move on to do whatever you want to do after the coaching? I know you've got big aspirations.
I think, and this goes back to probably where I started. Sometimes you don't realise the gifts that you've been given in different ways that help you position yourself into an industry in a slightly different tangent to what other people have actually kind of been able to do. And I think being the child of a tradesperson has really come to the fore now in terms of the work that I do, and also being, like I said, the ex-partner of a tradesperson as well. It really gives me a 360 kind of view in terms of what I can see versus what other business coaches can see, because I have a different lived experience off the back of that. And in terms of what I want to do for the industry, it needs a change. It's almost like make trades great again.
Yes.
So make it that sector that people want to come into, make it the place that people pick when they're doing their options at school. They want to go into trades rather than being told by teachers, oh, I don't think you're going to do too great at exams, you should go into the trades. It's changing the whole PR of it, if you like, because done well, trades businesses can make a phenomenal amount of money. They are highly skilled and they are highly required by us all. I'm sure anyone who lives in a property knows you'll have, over the course of 12 months, you'll have to call a tradesperson out for something. And if you don't own the property, your landlord will have had to call the tradesperson out for something over the course of the year. They're people that we touch in one shape or another all the time. Every time you touch a door handle, someone's had to put that door handle there. And imagine how many times you touch a door handle in a day. You know, that kind of gives you the idea of what it is that we're working with. And for me, I really want to leave the industry better than how I found it. And it is about transforming businesses through simple ways of doing their business, but giving them more productivity and giving them more profit margins, but also more importantly, giving them time as well with the loved ones that they have. Some of the things that I'm looking at doing in 2026 are going to allow me to scale that kind of exponentially. I can't talk too much about that now, but it will allow me to kind of do what I'm doing on a much, much bigger scale. So it's exciting times ahead, and also continuing, you know, with the Trades Industry Leaders Luncheon and moving that forward and getting people to collaborate more, because that's what the industry needs, so that we can all make it a better place.
That's fantastic. Well, Shereen Sinclair from Trades Angel, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for coming on the Hylton Forrester podcast.
Thank you for having me on. It's been great, Hylton.
Thank you.